Stop making such a big fuss. Someone has to do it. Someone has to ride around in a Benz. I am up to the task. Not everyone is. Some will quaver, quail, and collapse in a heap. Can you face the complaining, the disparaging faces that look like dark clouds as you drive past? You think it's easy being stuck in a traffic jam with clenched fists of envy in your face. That's why I zoom past in a rush, on the wrong side of the road. I wish you'd try it for a day. It will surely shut you up for good and prove without doubt that it takes a real man, and a real woman too, to withstand this daily harangue. Stop. Just quit the loud lament and objecting. How do you expect a mheshimiwa to look? Like some simple madman off the street? Of course I must stand out in the crowd. I can't blend in with those grimy jamas. The suit is a must. Pin-striped Armani it must be. It goes with the stature and adds weight, you must see. Stop the howling like a mindless wind in a storm, please. Can you take the rallies organized just for me? Some idle NGO types did that, you see. Am I cringing? Hell no. I am indifferent, cool and controlled. They're saying I used the wrong words again. And then that I laughed at the wrong time again. And my crying was simply contrived. I didn't show much respect for that hungry old woman's pain. The one who lost all her children and home. That's what they are saying again. But what do they know? Besides, my comments were meant in light jest. Now they are after my head. For a simple slip of the tongue, it's the pressure of grueling affairs of state. I must plead, I must ask you again, what is a mheshimiwa to do with the anger and spite directed at me and contempt for the work that I do? And that's the poem. Okay, so the poem is talking about, it's from the perspective of a member of parliament who is actually, currently the book that I'm reading currently is called Generation Occupy by Darius Sokola. I don't know whether anyone of you has seen that book. So he analyzes how the protests, from the inception, actually what inspired the protests, but then he traces it back to 2015 when the previous regime started borrowing heavily. They started taking up so much debt, and then how the ripple effect of that has led to the current state of the country, whereby now there isn't any much money for the economy to expand, and now people are suffering. But then still at the same time, most of the politicians are aloof of the situation at the ground. And so, for example, in this case, the assumption is that some of the citizens had lambasted the member of parliament for all the luxury that he has at their expense. And so now he is getting back at them that he deserves to earn that money because many people maybe usually ask him for money. He deserves to drive a big car because of all the work that he has to do in parliament. And it reminds me of another Ugandan poem. Forgotten the name, but it's a very famous poem written from the perspective of a driver who drove a permanent secretary. Does anybody remember the name? Basically, he talks about how, so he's carrying the permanent secretary, and then the permanent secretary is complaining about how he had so much food today and that his stomach is so full that he can't move.
Building the nation.
Or building the nation. Can you just get someone to read it for us before I leave the stage? Just one person to read Building the Nation for us. Because I feel it's quite related to this. And it also has the same theme, where it explains how the politicians are usually aloof to the situation that is faced by the common citizens.
Katika jiji la ahadi iliyogeuka moshi, giza la bajeti lilianza kuingia toshi. Watawala wakivaa suti za nadhifu, mioyo ya raia ikiwa na donda hafifu. Katika korido za hazina, vikao vya ahadi vilijaa hadaa. Wananchi watapumua, walisema kwa mbwembwe, lakini kodi ilinyakua hata hewa ya jembe. Kalamu zikachora mstari wa mashaka. Maisha yakawa kamba ya kukaba shingo ya maskini. Bajeti ikawa si tumaini bali ndoto ya ukatili. Kwa nini serikali hulia na kula wakati mmoja? Wabunge wakatia sahihi kama wanunuzi wa robo. Kila kipengele cha ushuru kilikuwa kisu kilichochanja mifuko ya mama wa boga na kusababisha vuguvugu la njaa kuwa moto wa kutosha. Siku zikahesabika hadi ile ya Juni 25. Jiji likateremka kwa sauti ya watu waliokosa tumaini. Bongo moja likasoma, sisi sio mizigo ya kifedha. Lakini sauti ya mwananchi haikunyamazishwa. Ilililia kama wimbo wa bundi usiku wa manane. Waziri mvaaji wa suti nyeusi alisimama mbele ya bunge kama nabii wa ukame. Akatoa takwimu za matumaini yaliyopotea na kuahidi usawa kwa kinya kilichojaa sukari ya hadaa. Lakini kwa mitaa ya Githurai, Kibera na Mathare, mtoto alilia kwa njaa, mama akalia kwa kodi, na vijana waliandamana si kwa fujo bali kwa uchungu, wakiuliza, je, hii nchi ni yetu au ya waliotupa kivuli? Mapambano yakawa kioo cha historia. Kama Berlin ya pili, vuguvugu la mwamko. Wengine walijeuriwa, wengine wakapotea. Lakini kilichoibuka ni sauti ya taifa lililochoka kunyamaza. Siku ikafifia kwa jua la matumaini ya kuchoka. Lakini majivu ya ghadhabu yakaanza kuchipua na wingu la baraka likaanza kujikusanya. Si kwa sababu ya serikali bali kwa nguvu ya umma.
And when maybe you have your own message, it's usually best if you can just pass it in whatever language comes to you easily. So now that you're fluent in Swahili and that you've been able to write it in Swahili, that's so beautiful. So congratulations.
Today I was having a conversation with my friends about what is happening. Like we have the World War III na sisi wa Afrika tuko. Kwa hivyo suggestion yangu ni kama wazungu wanataka kupigana, wapigane wao wenyewe, na sisi Afrika tupigane na viongozi wetu. Baada ya vita wao watarudi na sisi tutarudi. Sisi tukiwa na viongozi wapya wenye wanatujali, ama labda sisi ndio tutakuwa viongozi. Sasa concerning your question about the Mau Mau and now. Mau Mau wakati ule na Gen Z kwa sasa. Gen Z ni kama Mau Mau. Ni vyenye tu tuko katika muktadha tofauti, mazingira. At least nowadays we have cities, we don't have forests. But you see, when Mau Mau were arrested, they used to go, wanapelekwa kwa cells ambado zilikuwa chafu. The same tu na Gen Z when they are abducted. Ukisikia visa vyao, wanapelekwa msituni, wanatumiwa vibaya, kisha wanarudishwa. Kwa hivyo ni kupinga vikali kupitia uandishi mambo haya yasiendelee kufanyika tena. Yeah. Karibu.
Pongole sana Malenga. Nimefurahia sana na nashukuru na pia nikidhani inatuonyesha jinsi ambavyo mambo ambayo yanaendelea hivi sasa yametulazimisha hata watu ambao kwa kawaida hawangekuwa wanajihusisha na mambo ya sanaa, kuwa wanajihusisha na mambo ya wanaharakati, pia wamelazimishwa pia kujitokeza na kuwakilisha, kwa kuwa kila mtu sasa anakuja kujionea kuwa sio jukumu ya wanaharakati peke yao. Hakuna mtu ambaye alizaliwa akaambiwa wewe ni mwanaharakati. Lipo jambo ambalo linakusukuma kuwa mwanaharakati, na lipo jambo ambalo linakusukuma kuwa msanii, labda kwa sanaa, labda kuna talanta, lakini sisi sote tukihusika hivyo, mimi nanipa moyo sana, kwa kuwa sasa ninamaanisha watu wameondoa vichwa vyao katika mchanga, sasa wameinua vichwa, wanaona kinachoendelea na wanapasha sauti. Sasa mimi nashukuru na uzidi kuandika, tunangoja kitabu.
It's 2037, approximately 10 years later. from the next general elections in Kenya. The Gen Z wave carries the majority of the votes, and now, Bian Baraza, a 49-year-old man, is vying for presidency. He promises that Baldman Anthem will be the new national anthem in Kenya, that music will still remain the food of the soul even when we grow old, lost and found, reset and rewind, never give up on me is all they play in his campaigns every day. A man of few words, but lots of hit songs indeed. Nairobi, is that what we really need? Anyways, Nairobi. Nairobi is our home, but Susanna and Alusa are still dancing topless, far away from home. Sadly, our dwindling and tough economies cannot keep them here. Every Kenyan now wants to leave, but we want our home. The government is asking for those who listened to Sauti Sol and Yashinsky in the 2020s because they now qualify for financial compensation. Tanzania is the most developed nation in East Africa, and we are left in between hopes and shattered dreams because of the government we keep on picking. Meanwhile, drones have taken over the police forces in Kenya. Peacefully protesting youths are still being killed. Even with AIs, humans still crave control in Kenya. Revolutionary youths are still being held hostage, except now, instead of police brutality, we call it a mechanical error. In 2025, I could be abducted for this peace. Even though it came out to the public so peacefully, I don't even know why. But it's still the same in 2037, just in the hands of different governments, but the same people. Will music bring the revolutionary we need? Will Bian still give us the solutions we seek? I guess the more things change, the more they fundamentally remain the same. So, as a Gen Z that is always out in each and every protest in Kenya, I hope I don't get abducted. So this was my inspiration. I went to the parliament protest the other year. I still feel the pain because I saw those dead bodies. I was with my friend there and partly with Red Cross, so I feel every inch of this protest. I'm so emotional right now. So my inspiration, chaos that lie within. The first one is, at the moment as a Gen Z in my own home, I don't feel that I could walk out there and vote peacefully because my parents still influence my vote. They will tell me that is not a leader, we should pick Raila again and again, even though I don't see change. So my inspiration was, in 2037, I've written this in the future, where I won't be having my parent on my neck when I have to vote. So in 2037, I believe Gen Zs will be carrying the waves of the vote in Kenya. So they will have a lot of influence over the leaders they pick. As a Gen Z, I would rather listen to a musician than a politician speak. So I wrote it based on music, and I love Bian. I feel he speaks to the soul, and Yashinsky, that's why I wrote it somewhere. In 2020s, the government is asking for those who listen to their music, because we really deserve financial compensation. Yeah, so music talks to the soul, so I'd rather listen to a musician than a politician speak. But in 2037, you're never sure of the leaders that get there. Do they really change, or will we have a different endgame this time? Yeah, so also in 2037, with the rise in tech, I believe AI will be running most of the tasks, and I would prefer for them to hold on police brutality, but it's still the same. It will still be there, and they will call it a mechanical error. And then we keep picking the same governments, and it doesn't bring change. So if we don't watch the governments we pick, I believe other nations like Tanzania will soon overtake our GDP. Yeah, that's why I mentioned Tanzania overtook us. So basically, it's written on a 10-year future, in 2 terms. At the moment, Bian is 37 years old, so approximately 2037, he will be 49 years. Yeah, I'm done.
It's very well written. Continue doing what you're doing. That's marvelous work.
Your Father is not ours. Hallowed be thy name. Thy will be done on our land as it is in yours. Thy kingdom skyscraping. On our mountain of deviled corpses, and your daily tech extracted from, dumped into our hellish realm, which you boweled, created. Forceful, self-forgiving trespassers. Mere existence is enough to trespass you. How can it be temptation, and deliverance from evil is impulse, upon which thy kingdom flourishes? Insistent on winning hearts of many of our own, the many black skins with white masks. This is our protestation, our resistance in the language you know, that we learned, our tongues, foreign to your ears, deemed meaningless, a cacophony of ape sounds. Would you understand then, when the devil's children spoke, in your equally cacophonous, chaotic tongue, christened holy, that the ape does not see its own hind parts, it instead sees that of its fellow. Nyani haoni kundule, huliona la mwenziwe. I mean, just the things that have been going on in the country generally is the inspiration. And I guess thinking along history, the coming of British settlers, I guess, along with, I guess, colonialism tied to Christianity, and sort of parodying the Lord's Prayer.
I have a question. Now this is in terms of creativity. So when you write a poem that's possibly a parody of another thing, like how this poem is a parody of the Lord's Prayer, so do you usually write it parallel to each other so that with Our Father who art in heaven, we get a parody of that, like line by line? Does it happen that way?
Yeah, at the beginning that's what I did basically. Had the Lord's Prayer, of course, yeah, I mean, most of us brought up in a Christian background already know the Lord's Prayer, so tried to sort of parody it line by line until a point where it made sense, and then sort of went on with the rest of it.
Yes, you considered your creative process. Did you write it in one sitting, or did the inspiration come at once, or over a period of time? And how did you put it together?
If I remember, I think I wrote most of it in one sitting. Then maybe every once in a while going back to it and adding one or two lines, but until I got satisfied with it. Yeah.
There's a place between two stands of trees where the grass grows uphill and the old revolutionary road breaks off into shadows near a meeting house, abandoned by the persecuted, who disappeared into those shadows. I've walked there picking mushrooms at the edge of the dread, but don't be fooled. This isn't a Russian poem. This is not somewhere else, but here. Our country moving closer to its own truth and dread, its own ways of making people disappear. I won't tell you where the place is, a dark mesh of the woods, meeting the unmarked strip of light. Ghost-ridden crossroads, leaf-mold paradise. I already know who wants to buy it, sell it, make it disappear. And I won't tell you where it is, so why do I tell you anything? Because you still listen. Because in times like this, to have to listen at all, it's necessary to talk about trees. Thank you. So what inspired me to read this poem is because it's similar to the things that are happening in our country at the moment. So even if it's written by someone that's not of this country, we can relate to what this poem highlights. The themes that it highlights, the kidnappings of people, the stealing and grabbing of land, the terrible things that we have to go through as a people. Thank you.
It's good to talk about what's happening actually here in Kenya. Mostly the current president used to act like he's going the one to be savior of the country, but now what's happening? Personally, I don't know, but I believe that everyone knows. So yeah, but I wrote it in French. Alerte. De sa nature égoïste et si fieuleuse, l'amour semble être sa berceuse, et la société, les barrières de ses caprices. Mais aucune limite pour cette bête féroce qui massacre ses semblables sans remords. De se fier à ces belles paroles, on aurait tort. Il prêche l'unité pendant qu'il nous divise, afin de mieux asseoir sa domination. Et dans ses discours sur l'égalité et l'émancipation, résonne l'écho de notre soumission qu'il vise. Partout, il chante la liberté et l'amour. Cependant, pour nous imposer ses règles à la force et à la violence, il fait recours. Mais attendez, à quoi sert mon discours? Je ne fais que danser devant des aveugles, ou chanter aux sourds des plus sourds. Lorsque je sors de mon silence pour crier nos douleurs et nos mots, vous me traitez de tous les noms, et me chassez, tel le spectre d'un sombre passé. Vous me fuyez et rejetez la vérité, et même lorsque vos cœurs vous parlent, vous refusez catégoriquement de les écouter, car elles vous rappellent votre misérable condition. Alors, vous préférez vous accrocher à ce rêve d'une vie meilleure que ce démagogue vous vend, mais la réalité viendra balayer vos illusions comme un violent coup de vent. Et je vous préviens, le réveil sera brutal, un choc à nul autre pareil. Sortons donc de notre profond sommeil et posons-nous l'ultime question. Qui viendra sauver le pays? Merci. I haven't been here, but I have heard that the current president say, okay, once he will be there, he will change everything and he will make Kenya be better. But right now, yeah, so I don't want to say more, so that's the expression. Yeah.
Still, we march for the ones who showed up and the ones who never came back. We went out with palms, not fists, with chant, not stones, with hope heavy on our backs like old school bags, full borrowed courage and half-written dreams. We asked to be heard, but the wind was louder. And then the boots came, the smoke, the silence that follows the first scream. Last year we marched, this year on Wednesday. We are marching again, not because we weren't broken, but because we still believe that the cracks in this country might let in light if we keep pressing, keep praying, keep naming the dead like they matter. You wonder how many times a heart can break before it stops beating, but we keep coming back to the street, to the cries, to the echo that says you are not alone, because they won't make space for us, we'll take it. We write our names into every law they're trying to erase from us. We'll carry each other when legs fail. We'll remember, we'll rage, we'll hope that someday Kenya won't be a country we protest, but the country we protect. And then maybe finally we'll go out just to dance. Thank you. So the inspiration of this poem came from all the happenings from protests of last year, June, and I specifically wrote it on the day that Albert Ojwang was murdered, because I was pretty raised that day, still am, and yeah, basically that's where the inspiration came from.
The writing is on the wall of the human heart, nothing like the basket cases and the banana republics to showcase, where, in cahoots with drooling tongues, greed seems to draw maps and allocate flags. May it be land or what lies underneath, may it be cheap labor or fresh flesh for pleasure. The deal always starts upstairs, with sponsors and mouths for higher justification. Brother against brother for a fee, family against family for a pay, community against community for a check, night meetings and wiretaps to listen on to whispers. It's how lands have broken and millions perished. It's how economies have collapsed and poverty ruled, living in debris without beyond relief. Did we learn Do we care? Do we even feel? Sorry, no. For consumed blind following, it has always been them versus us according to the script of undertakers. Another play is on the stage. The players don't even recognize the lines or the accompanying hoots. Consumed with a false sense of security, the disease that has plagued many a third world country slowly rides the wind to the second and the first. History is such a monster when it stands to read. Corruption has no loyalty, just like the pirate it is. You only know that jackals are circling in the wagon when the deadly salvo of hatred tortures your long-held belief. Worse is your priest is on the know, but won't tell you for the hefty promise of the loot. Vultures eat their own in the jungle. Watch out for your own vulturian acquaintances. They carry the same sentence for your life. So, I think the poem is quite self-explanatory. I just touched on one or two of the themes. The voice or what did you used to say in English class? The persona, yes, the persona. The persona is a witness or a victim of corruption. And they're speaking onto the fact that corruption is the one true idea that has no borders, it has no class. Okay, it has class, it creates class, but any class can be corrupt. And it speaks onto something we've seen recently, or has been in the headlines recently, about state-sponsored goons. How this thing makes money, or poverty creates a system in which there are people who can be paid or can be enticed to turn against their own brothers, their own people, for the promise of, the daily bread, or 100 shillings for food, another 200 bob to, get something to drink. And it's something we need to think about, how corruption is systemic, how it's intrinsic into every one of our lives. When you walk into an office and because your uncle is there, you get a job, you're part of that system, you're enabling it. And even when you're benefiting, someone else is suffering. And that's also the gist of the poem. The fact that at the end of the day, vultures eat their own. The system you enable will come back to eat you. It won't leave you behind. And it also touches upon another thing, how we know many of our idols aren't the best people, but we still find ourselves turning back to them. And it's something I'm personally very scared about. We may one day you may be very angry at a leader somewhere, and when it comes to ballot day, you're happily voting for them on the polls. And I don't know what happens in 2 years, in the last 2 years before we go to the ballot, something just changes. They become very nice, they subsidize the cost of unga. Unga we buy at 90 bob, and petrol we buy at 110 shillings, and everyone is very happy. And then we forget the suffering we've endured for the last 3 years, and the cycle continues. So, I don't think there's much to comment. We just need to open our eyes and see. So, I'll pass it on to the moderator.
10:35 a.m. in Nairobi. Whispers in a market, building into a buzz. Soap between hands, lathering and expanding. Bucket full of soap, wiped to the brim. The water must be poured out, lest the foam spills, and out of the bucket mouth. All of it. 10 bullet holes on a young boy's chest. A market woman has been shot. She was closing her kiosk. On YouTube, a devil in Kaunda is accusing citizens of treason. Liar, rage in my body, burning me alive. The decision to drop people is eating my soul from within. I will not survive this. People died when I was in nursery too. No witnesses, twisted necks only. Not yet Uhuru, nobody is free yet. Thank you. So I wrote this poem on 26th June last year, after 25th, of course, when everything happened, people got shot by snipers, and there was so much pain in my heart, and yeah, I was basically just expressing that on paper. Yes, thank you.
Today I did my share in building the nation. I drove a permanent secretary to an important, urgent function. In fact, to a luncheon at the Vic. The menu reflected its importance. Cold bell beer with small talk. Then fried chicken with niceties. Yeah. Wine to fill the hollowness of the laughs. Ice cream to cover the stereotype jokes. Coffee to keep the PS awake on the return journey. I drove the permanent secretary back. He yawned many times in the back of the car. Then to keep awake, he suddenly asked, "Did you have any lunch, friend?" I replied, looking straight ahead and secretly smiling at his belated concern that I had not, but was slimming. Upon which he said with a seriousness that amused more than annoyed me, "Mwananchi, I too had none. I attended to the matters of state. Highly delicate diplomatic duties, you know. And friend, it goes against my grain, cause me stomach, ulcers, and whines." He continued, yawning again. The pains we suffer in building the nation.